today I'll be doing a video on how to cast on, and I did make a video on this in the past. However, my older videos are pretty poor quality. The lighting was bad, it was blurry, and there was a lot of weird background noise, so I decided to refilm a lot of my basic tutorials and hopefully they'll be more helpful. This one will be about casting on, which is the first step of any knitting project. No matter if you're doing a simple one or a more complicated project, you have to cast on to get the yarn onto the knitting needle. So it's one of the most important and basic things you need to know for knitting. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're just going to start off with a little bit of terminology. This will be referred to as the ball end of the yarn, since it's the side where the yarn connects to the ball of yarn, and this will be referred to as the tail end of the yarn. So basically when you are casting on, you want to have the ball end of the yarn to your right and then the tail end of your yarn to your left. One of the first things you want to do before you make the slip knot is to determine how long of a tail you need to keep. So a general rule of thumb that I like to follow is to have at least 1 inch per stitch that you need to cast on, and that's pretty generous, but I'd rather have more left on the tail end and be able to snip it off or weave it in to your work when you're done, rather than to kind of run out when you're ready casting on. So I always like to be a little bit more generous. So for example, if your work calls for you to cast on 10 stitches, I would have at least 10 inches of the tail, and then determine where to make your slip knot. So to make the slip knot, it's very simple. Basically, you take the tail end of the yarn and you want to have that lay over the ball end of the yarn, just like that, and then you let the loop fall forward, and then you take the ball end of the yarn here and you pull it through like that, and you just tighten it, and here you go, you have a slip knot. And for the cast on, you only need 1 knitting needle for the method that I'm showing you, which is the long tail cast on using the thumb method. So basically you take the needle and you put it right in through the loop, and you want to tighten it, not too tight, but just enough so there's not much space here. So I'm going to go really slow just so I can show you how I like to hold the needles when I'm casting on. Of course, you can go with whatever method is most comfortable for you, but if you're just starting out, hopefully this tutorial will be of a great help. And I just really want to stress how important it is to practice with knitting, because obviously your fingers are not used to these knitting movements and motions, but once you practice and get the hang of it, it really becomes muscle memory. So without further ado, here we go. Here's the slip knot, the first stitch. This does count as stitch number 1 of the cast on, so I did get a lot of questions in my previous video about that, but this will count as stitch number 1. So to cast on the next stitch, what you want to do is take the tail end of your yarn and hold it in your left hand. And basically I like to use these 4 fingers to kind of grab the end like this, and then I use my thumb and I put my thumb and wrap the yarn around just like that. And what you want to do is take your needle and put it through this loop, and don't let go of the end yet. So right here, take these 2 fingers and hold on to your needle just like that, and then with your right hand you take the ball end of the yarn and you wrap it around the needle like this. And the next step is taking this loop and pulling it over the needle just like that, and then let go of it and tug on the tail end of the yarn, and then you kind of just tighten it a little bit like that. So basically you're going to continue casting on stitches until you have the number of stitches that your pattern calls for. So I'm just going to show you a few more stitches just so you can kind of get the hang of it. So again, what you want to do is hold the needle in your right hand, take the tail end of the yarn and hold it with these 4 fingers, take your thumb and loop it around just like that, and then take your needle and go ahead and put it into that loop and then use your left hand to grab onto the needle while you take the ball end of the yarn with your right hand and loop it around the needle just like that. And then again, you're going to use your right hand, transfer the needle, grab onto it, and then loop this over, let go of it, and tug on the tail end. And there you go. There's stitch number 3. Yeah, so that's it. That's how you cast on. Here is the beginning of your knitting project. If you still have any questions, the easiest way to get in contact with me is probably through Twitter. I will put my information in the info box below. Feel free to tweet me. And as always, enjoy knitting, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!